And on the Orlando side, this is a really young team.
Yep.
I think they're self-aware about the fact that they don't have enough creation. I think they're self-aware of the fact that they don't have enough shooting. They have a lot of roster flexibility this summer. They have cap space. Really interested to see how they use that. Everyone's got them jumping in on the next big point guard who happens to become available on, if the Hawks break it down, could they be a Trae Young team or anything like that? I don't know. I could see them going a simpler, less obstructive to their core kind of route. If you trade for Trae Young, you're going to have to give stuff up. You're going to have to give up picks, probably some players. Like, you're going to have to give things up. I wonder if they're just going to kind of, like, for example, I know they were expressing interest in Tyus Jones leading into the deadline. I wonder if they're going to just kind of go that route, get a really competent point guard who is going to make all the right plays, never turn the ball over, defend, and is not necessarily the level of a Trae Young type, but also isn't going to disrupt things you don't have to give stuff up for. I wonder if they're going to go the route. I mean, I think Emmanuel quickly is going to end up back with Toronto. He's a restricted free agent, and Toronto just traded for him, and they will feel the pressure to match any offer to Quickly. However, something that we have seen is we've seen a team that has a restricted free agent accept a sign and trade. If you come to him with the sign and trade and say, hey, we're going to make this really big offer, you don't want to pay the guy this offer. Let's see if we can do a sign and trade for it. And I wonder if that's something. I think Quickly stylistically fits in really well for them in terms of ball creation. He's a great team defender. He cares a lot about that side of the ball. I think culturally his personality fits there really well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that one's going to happen. I anticipate him re-signing with Toronto, but I see a route like that maybe making a little bit more sense for them. That being said, like, they're in a position, if they want to go out and get a really big name, they could make a really good offer while still keeping their core together. They got their draft picks. They got a lot of cap room. Like, they could make a really enticing offer for a really big name if they wanted to. And they're set up, man. Like, they're in really good shape. They got a lot of really good young players. They're in a good spot.
Well, look, my thing with them is Klay Thompson's going to be a free agent. We're not sure exactly how that's going to play out. I'm not even sure if he's the best fit. I like where you were going with the Tyus Jones route. I would think they would call the Portland Trailblazers and say, let's talk about Ant Simons. You know what I mean? Like, I like him in terms of shot creation. I know he's not a natural point guard, but I feel like he is a point guard in today's game. Not like a CJ McCollum point guard where you're small, so you're going to play the position. I think he's functionally able to sort of make the reads, understanding the game, and the fact that he can get you 25. He can spread the floor and open it up for Banchero, and he's not going to cost you what it would cost to get a Trae Young. And he might even be a better fit for a team in that spot, Fred. Like you said, Trae Young is going to cost you a lot in terms of your own capital and in terms of what he brings with him to your locker room. Like, is he going to be okay with us saying, if I'm the Orlando Magic, hey, Paolo Banchero's the franchise. Where are you going to fit in? Are you okay with fitting into a spot where you're not going to be, the featured guy? Like, we have something great that we're building here. Are you going to be okay with that? So I agree with you on the lower maintenance thing, Fred. I'm just very curious what that guy is, who that guy is. But I think they're in prime position to take advantage of a very, shall we say, topsy-turvy Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I think that's true. The other thing that you absolutely have to consider with all of this is, you want to go get a point guard. But if I'm them, your list of point guards absolutely has to be exclusively guys who can play next to Jalen Suggs. Because holy crap.
Yep.
Like, holy crap, Jalen Suggs. The dude is the next Marcus Smart, and he's a better shooter. The reason they are good, the reason they are a good team, and the reason they took Cleveland 7, and the reason they are a team that nobody should have wanted to play, even though they so regularly can't score, is because their entire identity is, we are going to beat the living hell out of you. Yeah, we might lose, but it's going to be a remarkably uncomfortable experience for you in a win. We're going to be crazy physical. We're going to kill you defensively. We're going to rotate well. The intensity is going to be off the chart. And I think their defense now I think their best defensive player is Jonathan Isaac. But Jonathan Isaac does not play enough minutes in order to impact their defense the most.
Right.
And I think the guy who impacts their defense the most is Jalen Suggs, who, in my opinion, I didn't have a vote this year. If I did have a vote, he would have been on all defense for me. I think he is absolutely one of the 10 best defenders in the NBA. And I think you could put him first team all defense, and I'd be like, sure, no problem at all. I think there's an argument to be made that he had the best defensive season of any guard in the league this year. The guy fights like crazy on the ball. He's completely and utterly unscreenable. His physicality is insane. He's unbelievable getting the loose balls. He really is his generation's Marcus Smart from a defensive standpoint. And now he's learned how to shoot. I would have had him on my most improved ballot. I think he had an incredible season. He's still super young. I imagine he's going to get better. That guy could not leave my starting lineup. And to me, if you have Trae Young out there, it's like, because of Suggs' defensive abilities, you could put him next to a small point guard and he can figure it out. Because he's become a good spot-up shooter, because he's active, because of how hard he plays, you could put him next to a point guard and he can figure it out. But I wouldn't want someone who Suggs has to make up for, like Trae Young. I would kind of prefer someone who Suggs could complement. And you could say, yeah, it's 2 point guards on this team, but it's 2 guys who are somewhat interchangeable.
Right.
So like you say, I think Simons would kind of be in that first category, not necessarily the 2 guys who are interchangeable category, even though I love Anthony Simons. He's a great talent, and the dude is an insane shooter. But I wonder if, like, you mentioned Portland, just like you can make a modest offer for Malcolm Brogdon, probably get something
I was thinking
done.
of him too. Yeah.
Like just a guy of that ilk, I think could help them, change them a lot, change their fabric, and it wouldn't be very intrusive to their future at all. It doesn't have to be someone who fits their timeline if it's not something you give up a lot to get. And they could also just sign someone. They have a lot of cap space. They could just sign somebody to a mid-level deal. Yep. They could sign somebody to more than a mid-level deal because they're doing it with cap space, and they could just outbid the mid-level people, and you're good to go. So I think they're going to do something to bring in more shooting. I think they're going to do something to bring in more playmaking, and I think there's a pretty decent chance they're going to be better next year because Banchero is an incredible talent, and Franz Wagner was 1 for 15, but he's a great talent and is going to be really good. And his jump shot just went into the toilet this year for some reason. And I think one thing that will help bring that up is bringing in more playmaking for them.
Yep.
I loved watching them play this year, and I love the job Jamal Mosley did this year. You know how hard it is to get a team that young to all be like, you know what? We're all going to sacrifice and we're all going to play defense. It's not just about how like young players are usually worse at defense, how offense usually comes before offense. It's also like, Vinny, you know this. You've covered the league for a long time. You're old as shit. You've covered the league for a really long time. You know this.
Thanks, Fred.
Yeah, you know this, Vin. Like getting a whole team to defend when basically the whole team hasn't gotten paid yet.
Right.
That's the hard part. Because usually it's not like, no, I'm too good to defend. Usually it's, nope, you make your money on your second contract, and I haven't gotten my second contract yet, so I really don't want to sacrifice and cost myself generational money. And technically that's selfish because you're thinking of yourself, but it's an extremely relatable type of selfish that I think the vast majority of people would do. And the fact that you've got like Cole Anthony the year before he becomes extension eligible and he ends up signing like a fine enough extension, but the year before he becomes extension eligible last year, you got Cole Anthony under Jamal Mosley being like, you know what? Screw it. I'm in. Yeah, I was like a kind of a pretty boy scorer, but now I'm just throwing myself all over the court. I'm going to be a relentless rebounder. I'm going to be physical as hell on defense. I'm going to smash people in the mouth. Like, you got a whole roster of guys who are doing that, and it's before they've gotten paid. Talk about buy-in, man. Talk about a coach just getting buy-in and coaching up a team. I think it's extremely impressive.
No, the point that you made about guys not getting paid yet and guys still playing hard. For one, that creates an internal accountability within the locker room where guys are going to hold each other, where you don't have to worry about the coach yelling at you. Like the young guys get on each other because everybody's making that sacrifice. Everybody's defending. Like even Paulo Banchero, who I wouldn't say is the best defender, but he uses his body. You know what I mean? Like he's got to get to the glass a little bit more and stuff like that, but he's engaged. And you don't find teams that are engaged for 82 games or for the better part of 82 games that young without some level of ass kicking going on in a locker room. And Jamal Mosley, like, look, they've gone 12 plus wins every season that he's been their head coach. Like he should be, you know, one of those guys that we're looking at and saying, hey man, there's only like 7 good coaches in the league and he's probably one of them. Like that's where they are right now.